Hello everyone, this is Josh Rosowski for PPM 300. This week we're going to be specifically looking at the topic of utilizing new technologies and e-governance. And we have three articles for this week. And the first is e-governance approaches at the local level, a case study in best practices by Carizales et al. And what they did in this article is they're looking for best practices in e-governance through analyzing the websites of different districts in Prague. And when they looked at each of the websites, they were basically looking. They came up with the way to rate these different websites based on citizen surveys, and they asked the citizens to basically use 5 different criteria. The first was looking at privacy security issues. So people are concerned that if they interact with government websites that perhaps these sites are going to be following them and tracking their moves. They might sell this data, so there's some serious privacy and security risk. The second is usability. We all know that, right? We've been to good websites where it's so easy to navigate and it just is intuitive, it makes sense. So they looked at usability. The third aspect was content. So here they're looking, is there good content? Is it stuff that's actually useful for people? Next was services. What services do they provide online? And lastly, citizen participation. So do people have opportunities for feedback to contact legislators or people working in government, so on and so forth. So with these 5 factors is what they use to analyze these districts in Prague. And just a little background, as government websites have evolved, they began as really simple static kind of websites that provided or posted information only. But now the best provide up-to-date information and seek input on projects. So they're actually trying to engage people through the ability of email, or even sometimes we're going to see blogs where people can go on there and write comments. And this type of new kind of level of participation, citizen participation, is really important. And it comes up with, it's known as a term that we use as e-democracy. So this is important. And this is where, technology can be really, really great because it gives people a new opportunity to engage with government that they didn't have before. So I'm going to talk about e-democracy quite a bit through a couple of these papers today. But I also want you to be thinking about it as you do your projects. Are there opportunities to engage the public? Because, key aspect of performance is doing what people want. If we believe in government by the people, for the people, we really need to know what they want. And so this technology allows people to be able to interact with government in new ways. Think about it, you could be videotaping a meeting you're having, and people could be able to watch it and see what decisions are being made and how it's going to impact their lives. Also gives people to, a lot of times we'll have community outreaches. Not everybody can get there at that time. They may be working, they may have childcare issues. So with blogs and other types of technology, people have a better way to interact. So I think these new technologies are quite exciting for that aspect. But to get back to the paper, so they're looking at these districts, and they did the surveys as I mentioned, and people rated them. And I specifically asked you to look at page 940, table 8. Here they really kind of surmise the best practices, going to give you some good ideas. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail of them because it's I think it's really clear what they're talking about here. But one of them that I thought was interesting is how they actually gave low-level employees the ability to be able to change content online without a whole lot of approvals. In some cases, none at all. And that's great. I know where I work, we have to send it all the way to the top levels of administration to be able to get anything changed on our websites, and it isn't quick. So if government employees have access to the websites, they can really make accurate, up-to-date information available. And I think that's pretty neat. In the next article, E-Government and Transparency in New Jersey Counties, Providing Information to Citizens by Mohammed Spigner et al. We really now are going to focus on sort of this sort of transparency, e-democracy sorts of concepts in much more detail. So in this article's introduction, some reasons why it is important to have transparency in e-government is cited. For one, in order for representative democracy to work, its citizens need to know what is going on. So having accurate, timely, and useful information is necessary for people. Next, and this is kind of neat, bureaucracy in its very nature has taken what we call representative power from politicians. So politicians are elected by the people, and this would be considered sort of a democratic people's choice sort of endeavor. But with bureaucracy now, with so many rules and regulations being made by bureaucrats, public administrators, it has taken some of this, what we would call representative power, away from people, from the elected officials. So e-government, one of the important things here is it's really gives the administrator the ability to put some of this information back in the hands of the public so that the public can actually know what's going on, decide what they want done, and let their elected officials know. And so this sort of transparency that e-governance can provide really has the ability to restore some of this balance and putting the power back into the hands of the people. Third, if we take a look at this whole concept of democracy and people having the ability to be able to choose what their government is going to look like, if we take a look at history, it kind of goes up and down. Sometimes people have more democracy, sometimes they have less, depending on the current government structure. So again, e-governments has a force to be able to make democracy expand and people to have more ability to impact government. And lastly, because transparency in its very essence is shining light in places that people can't see, it's going to provide an important guard against abuses, mismanagement, and corruption. So all of this transparency that e-governance is pretty good at doing can help all these factors. So some of the things that have happened in the recent past, we're starting to see freedom of information laws being passed. And basically, our legislators have decided that this is important, that people should know what's going on, they should know what their government is doing. And so they've tried to facilitate the transparency with these sort of laws. And the freedom of information laws basically fall into two different kind of categories. We have passive and active. Now with passive freedom of information acts or laws, here governments provide information only on request. So if you want to know something about what's going on in government, you write a letter or send an email, you ask for some information, government will provide it for you. Active, though, is basically taking it the next step forward. So you're trying to be proactive, you're trying to put more information on your websites ahead of time, things such as budgets, meetings, whether it's meeting minutes or even better, the videos of the meetings, so that people can really know actually what's going on. So the study is really focusing on the counties in New Jersey, and really what they wanted to do is see how transparent New Jersey counties really are. And so they asked citizens, again, they rated these websites on some things. Specifically, they looked at 5 different things, and the first was that on the website, is it easy for the person to be able to figure out, or is it even listed at all, contacts for contacting their politicians? And what they found is that most counties did a pretty good job of citing either phone numbers or email addresses for the politicians. Second, they looked at, are there email addresses for government employees? And here, most counties did not provide this information. So if you wanted to contact somebody in a certain part of government, it would be very difficult for that person to actually find an email address to be able to contact them. So of course that's going to decrease transparency, makes it more difficult for people to get more information. Third, is there basically internet access to government meetings? So this could be live as government meetings are going on. Are these meetings live or are they taped? Um, and what they found is that not New Jersey counties in general didn't do very good on this. Um, However, what they cited is that uh, if they could do this, which it isn't that costly, it would really do a tremendous amount to increase transparency. Fourth are the government finances posted. So, do they post their budgets? Um, and what they found is that governments agencies do pretty good at posting their annual budgets, um, but not much more. So they don't go into a whole lot of detail after the initial budget set on what did they actually spend it on and so forth. And then the last one, which I thought was interesting, are vehicles that are issued to employees listed. And here, out of the 21 counties in New Jersey, they found that only one did this. So they only cite which employees actually get to take vehicles home. So though with these findings, it doesn't sound too good. Overall, New Jersey scored fairly high compared to other states. But the authors did cite that there's still a long way to go. So I think this whole e-governance, e-democracy, transparency is really one of the great opportunities with this technology. And we're going to go on to the next paper. It's going to be capacity and e-government performance, an analysis based on early adopters of internet technologies in New Jersey, by Militsky. So here Militsky basically is going to be talking about two different types of paradigms that influence the implementation of e-governance. Basically, the first is there's the information technology paradigm, and the second is a public administration paradigm. Now, with the information technology paradigm, the drivers are really going to be technology. And then what's also going to be central to this whole paradigm is its management structure, which is vertical in nature. So power disseminates up and down the chain. However, in contrast, the public administration paradigm doesn't really put technology as the driver. It puts people or citizens as the most important reason for implementing these systems. They tend to be more decentralized, or what we might call a horizontal management style. Now, over the years, if we take a look at sort of the debates that have taken place between horizontal management versus vertical management, we can see that there's certainly strengths and weaknesses of each. On the negatives, centralized sorts of vertical management styles, they can become too rigid. Difficult to make things happen because you have to go all the way to the top to be able to get an answer. However, decentralized also has its problems. It leads to fragmented programs that are often difficult to coordinate. It's difficult with no one really in charge to sometimes get something done. The positives of these two, though, centralized sorts of governments seek clarity and coordination, and they really do a good job of taking advantage of economies of scale. However, decentralized, their strength is it's very open, so a lot of transparency. They tend to be more entrepreneurial, and they're also seeking innovation. So, when we're talking about performance, these are some of the strong factors we look at. But also at times we need to have a strong centralized sort of government to be able to get things done. So both of these aspects are keys to performance. Militsky goes on in his research to really want to figure out, again, he's going to take a look at New Jersey state government, so we're still looking at New Jersey government. And they're going to look specifically at department websites. And they graded him basically on these two kind of scales. And what he wants to determine, is state government in New Jersey tend to be more centralized, or does it tend to be non-centralized? So in order to determine this, they looked at each websites, and they looked for 4 different factors. The first was, is the website static? Static meaning the info is available, but the citizen cannot communicate with the department or download files. So it's basically sort of a read-only, you can get information, it's posted, that's it. The next type of website that it could be is interactive. So is the information available, as in with the first one. But here you also get the ability to be able to communicate with departments and download files. So there's a little bit more interaction going on. The third type is a transaction. On here you can transact business with the department online. So you might be able to pay fines or pay for a program, or if you're trying to get a permit for a building permit, you can do this online. And then lastly is transformational. State business is conducted and affected by interactions between the department and the website visitor. So here we're going to see much more citizen participation, this whole sort of e-democracy thing that we've talked about quite a bit tonight. So what Malitsky found after analyzing all these agency websites is that state governments tend to be neither centralized or decentralized. They tend to pick aspects of each that best suit their own organization. This may be surprising. You may think that he should have found either a positive or negative, a centralized or decentralized point of view. But what's interesting here is that there's aspects of both that are good and there's aspects of both that are bad. So governments tend to pick different pieces of each depending on what's going to best suit what they need. And so they pick what was known as kind of sort of this loose tight or a mixed approach. And so I think for this article, the takeaway here is it's important to know both styles, what the strengths and weaknesses are, but you must decide what options will work best for you. And I think this is key. You know, this is kind of the whole concept of this class. You know, we're trying to learn not only from our experiences, but also from best practices in academia. And if you can take the two and blend them together, you can sometimes get some really new and innovative results. And so these are the kind of the thoughts I want you to be thinking about. This is the last lecture I'm going to do. Next week we don't have any readings. There is a discussion, and then of course there is at the end of the week the final project. So think about these things. You know, how can we take these ideas that we've now learned in these past 4 weeks, reading the articles that we've read? How can we combine them with our experiences and come up with something new, something positive, something to transform our agencies, make them more productive? So that's really the overarching sentiment I want to instill on you and have you think about as you're writing these final projects. Lastly, I want to also remind you to please, any questions you have, if you hit a roadblock, you need something, some ideas or something, please contact me and let me try to help you. Really, this whole learning experiences project is all for you, to really find a new way to deal with some of your performance issues at work. So I'm here to help you, and I hope you've gotten something out of all of this. This is my first online course. I've taught plenty of courses, so it's been interesting that I haven't actually got to meet any of you in person, but I've enjoyed reading your discussions, your papers, and seeing your thoughts and ideas transform over these few short weeks. So again, if you have any questions, contact me, and I wish you good luck on the final project.